You're right. Okay.
All right, here we go. Sid and Ann, thank you so much for joining us. And was thrilled that your team was like yesterday afternoon, do you mind if Ann joins? And I was like, absolutely not. This is absolutely fantastic to have you both here. The people on the call here are mostly founders, small business owners, entrepreneurs, thought leaders. So having a discussion with you two, especially the brand you're building, your full suite of experiences, everything for working for Vogue, Glamour magazine, Polo, all that good stuff. We thought we'd have a good chat today. So I thought we would normally what we do is a moderated discussion. I'll just throw out a few questions and then we'll open up to the floor and we'll just go for 45 minutes and go from there. Sound good?
Great.
Sounds great. And also, Mark, we're super interruptible. So just jump in whenever it feels right.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, this is designed to be very collegial, very friendly, and a good little discussion. So as I said, you guys work for some really cool brands, Vogue, J.Crew, Glamour, Polo, Tommy Hilfiger, Land's End. And I'm just curious, and a lot of people here have different talents and backgrounds, but just thinking about like that talent stack, getting that experience at some of these bigger brands to maybe give you the confidence to kind of launch your own brands going forward.
Well, it's when you're in it and doing it, you don't really think that much about it. But I think Ann and I both came at it. We were not New Yorkers when we, started in this world. And I started in the clothing business the day I got my driver's license, which was 15 years old. And I always thought, man, this is a cool business. I'd love to do this someday, but not really realizing what opportunity, could be ahead. And so I tried to ask my father midway through college. I was like, I'm not thriving as a student, and I'm not really going to give you a great return on your investment here. I'd like to go to New York to design school. And he's like, well, what does that mean? And so he discouraged me, said, why don't you finish regular school and then you can go do whatever you want. And so I went along with that and then fled to New York the day or close to when I left school, graduated from Ole Miss and went to work there, working in a clothes store. And I'd only worked in clothes stores and restaurants. And so basically to me, those are always hospitality businesses, both of them.
Right.
They're so customer centric. So anyway, that was my kickoff to seriously getting into this business as a long-term vocation.
Yeah, so if the question is just being around all that excellence, and I think that, when I was working at Vogue and around, the very top people, a lot of the glamour of that is taken away because you realize they're all working people every day making mistakes. You could have done a, $50,000 Vogue shoot and you have to redo it because something went wrong. You saw the frailties of people who were really glamorous, but they were just real people who lost their temper, who forgot things, who, just
change their mind.
Yeah. You also saw people who may not have even graduated from college, but got to a level in business that they just willed their way into it and had a lot of talent. And so I think that for me, working at that level and especially as when I started out just as an assistant, where you just learn everything, you're the least important person in the room. So you just kind of take it all in. But it gave me a ton of confidence to do anything because I'm like, well, they're just normal people, and they did it and they're doing it. And so I can too.
Yeah. Cause I think about like, when I've been into your Georgetown store and I've been into the store in the Brentwood Country Mart, and I even think about your online presence, and there just seems to be a very strong emphasis on storytelling, on quote unquote, the edit. I mean, the stuff that you guys, obviously the clothes are fantastic, but even like selling, Virginia peanuts or, some weird Portuguese soaps or, random magazines, stuff on the monocle. You definitely know, like you're in a Sid or Ann Mashburn store. So I think about like your experience, and maybe I'm projecting, but Ann, when you worked at a magazine, like you had to have a very definite voice. And I wonder if that transpired to your business now?
I think the thing that's, I'm not sure. I think the thing that our real voice comes from the fact that I think that Sid and I met when we were really young. We were not even 24 years old when we met. And we really grew up together doing careers that were similar because we loved clothes and fashion and all that stuff. But I think I have a window into his unique personality, and I fell in love with him for that personality. And as when I met him, he always wanted to do what we're doing now. I mean, I would say that I love what I'm doing now. I've loved creating this, but owning a brand and having something that was a reflection of my own personal style was never top of my list. That wasn't something I really set out to do. I liked creating things, but I love to write, and I always love to do that. But making our brand really was born out of Sid's desire to have a men's line. So I feel like when we first created the store, I felt the thing that made it different was just the same thing that I fell in love with him. Like, I think he's a really unique guy. He is very different from all the other guys. And I appreciated his style from the minute I met him. So I felt like my job in creating our brand was really to tell the story of him. And so everything to me, it's just a reflection of how we feel about each other, and just that, I'm the best person to say, well, Sid thinks this is cool. It's easier for me to say that even than for him, because in a way it's more, I don't know, it seems more authentic to have someone talk about you rather than just you. Anyway, I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but I have amazing experience in all the places that I've worked. But I think telling the story of our brand and creating it really just feels more of an outcome of our marriage, and just, and also knowing that there's so much out there. I mean, there's so much out there that the only thing that's different is our point of view. So therefore, that is the thing that has the most value, because that's the thing that the guy next to you doesn't have. And so if you don't lead with that, then it's just stuff. So
that's it. I was listening to a pod the other day with the Diesel bookstore owner, the Diesel bookshop there in the country bar. And he was saying, listen, I mean, everybody has the same top 10 list, right? But it comes down to, how do you differentiate, or how do you personalize it, or how do you say, this is what we're selling, and make that kind of the thesis of the store? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think, well, one of the things is when you walk in our store, we want there to be a familiarity, like, oh, I kind of get this, but then we want a couple of points where they go, what's this doing in this store, or where did this come from? So like a surprise. And we feel like the customer to us is the real star of the show, and we're in the show, particularly in the store. So everything, and we're sitting right now in our office, which has all of our design and merchandising and e-commerce and creative and IT and the other side of the business, but the store is where the real action is. Okay, so how do we make that a little bit of a wonderland? And probably somebody on this today knows the source of this, but there's somebody that talks about phenomenology. And it's like, we want real normalcy, but then what is, again, the one or two or three things where they go, whoa, I have not seen this, or at least seen this in this context. Because when customers come to us and cross the threshold, they're kind of voting for us and saying, I want to come into your world and see what's up in there. So we feel it's really incumbent on us to be super kind, to be super generous, to offer multiple price points, to definitely offer them a drink, a water, a tea, a Coke, a beer, a whiskey, and a little bit of entertainment. Yeah, and I think that's one thing that's really been lost in retail today is there's hardly any entertainment left in retail. I mean, if I can go off just for a second, Dana, I think about that guy on is it State Street by the sushi store that had the scent shop, where you could go in, you could make your own flavor shampoo.
Oh yeah, the soap opera.
Soap opera.
Yeah, Charles and Chuck Beckwith. Yeah.
that place was cool because, I mean, where can you make your own shampoo? You know, and it's kind of, you know, that's one of. Why are you laughing?
I'll tell you later.
Okay. Anyway, so there was in our store we made the tailor shop a central focus of the store. So we took what's typically put in the basement or a back room or in another place that's maybe windowless or not that exciting. We actually brought that to the floor as part of, you know, theater, and also to celebrate the tailors and their acumen, but also to say, you know what, you don't know who in the heck we are. Yeah. So we're going to show you who we are by saying we do the real stuff here.
Yeah, we actually needed to tell our story in the shop because we knew one person here in Atlanta, and there was no social media there. It was nothing. It was like, okay, when you walk in the store, it has to look like Sid. Okay, it has to, like, the tailor shop was just something he felt really strongly about. It was like Spago, you know, where you see the kitchen. And, and, you know, we have mood boards in every one of our stores, but the real impetus of that was just because I was like, gosh, nobody knows my husband. Like, nobody knows what he likes, who he is, you know, so it was just stuff that represented who we were. And of course, everybody does that. I mean, if Ashley's on, I've been in her store, which is total, you know, representation of her style. And of course, you know, the fixtures, all that stuff. But I think even more so, and music was a really big part of it. Like Sid is to me, he's music is what describes him. So he was definitely going to play his music. So
we put a turntable in the store, you know, we played all vinyl, and, you know, unless it's Christmas, it's hard to find a lot of good Christmas records. So we'd go to, you know, Apple Music at that time. But otherwise, music was important. Refreshment was important. Education was important. Just a little bit of an experience. I mean, so even on the mood board, you had everybody from Brian Ferry to Dr. J to
your kids,
to you know, Ann and the kids, and a picture of Tom Landry. You know, so it was really just to kind of show this is a place for men. It's not crazy heavy on testosterone. As a matter of fact, we put a ping pong table in the store, and we have a friend that was next door, and she's a pretty celebrated designer in Atlanta. And Atlanta's a big design town, particularly interior design.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, well, you've got to have a pool table." I was like, "Too much testosterone. Let's put a ping pong table." You know, because everybody can play ping pong. And it also even goes to the music, is there's no gangster rap and no death metal, you know, because grandma might walk in, or you might come in with your kids. So we like to keep it fairly PG-ish in a sense. I mean, it's kind of hard when a guy's throwing back a shot of bourbon, but that's at least it's in a pretty tame environment. So anyway, that was kind of the way we came to market. And Ann's background, you know, her business background was fantastic, and also her creative background. So it really was an amalgam of both of our tastes to throw open the doors to Atlanta who didn't really know us. So, one other thing is when we opened, adjacencies were super, super, super key to us. So we went to this, you know, I drove all around Atlanta multiple times and couldn't find anything, and finally went to this place where there was the best restaurant in Atlanta and one of the best in the South, another really, really great restaurant, and then a taqueria with like $2 tacos. And then it had a home store, and it had another women's store, and a kids store. And all these people kind of smoked the same stuff we were smoking. You know what? Nice stuff, not crazy expensive. The food was all made fresh daily. The woman that ran the main restaurant was 2-time James Beard Award winner. And so we wanted to surround ourselves with people that felt like-minded, because I don't think you can underestimate the importance of who you're hanging out with. And we certainly didn't want to be in a place that was like a mall or like a luxury ghetto or someplace that was too calculated. So we took a shot, and you know what? It wasn't the smartest thing necessarily, but it felt like the right thing.
Before I'm gonna open up to the floor, but I'm just gonna ask you each one quick question. Sid, the barn jacket, the J.Crew barn jacket. I went to college late 80s, early 90s. Was in a fraternity, so at least 100 dudes in my house had the barn jacket. So quick answer, if you have an idea of how many barn jackets you sold, I'm super curious. And then and the you need this, I promise, is like one of the greatest hashtags ever. It's like a running joke in our house. We use it for all kinds of situations, even outside of clothing. So if you could just talk about those two items, and then I'll open up to the floor.
Ann's is better.
Yes, he brought up. I mean, the barn jacket definitely paved the way for Sid's success, because who knows how many they sold. But he was a young guy at a very young company, and was allowed to do a lot of really amazing things because that was like the ticket that was so successful that they just thought, okay, and we did that. And he was so enthusiastic. He was like, okay, now I want to do this and this and this. So for us, that represents kind of a ticket to his whole education in a way of design.
And the one thing that was nice about it is I worked at J.Crew started in '83. I started there in '85, and it was kind of it was a cooler, preppy place. It didn't have a logo. The prices were fantastic, and they didn't have to pay me any more money to do more stuff. I was just like,
it's like a candy store.
It was like a candy store. And so when I got there, I was just doing men's pants and men's shirts and men's outerwear. And the barn jacket just happened to, it was a mashup of a bunch of different hunting coats, but and at the time, I honestly, I kind of thought I was responsible for it. But as I got further along in my career, I realized without Pam Katofsky, who ran production, without Tierney Gifford, who ran the creative team, without Emily Senator, who greenlighted it, without this great team to help bring it to market, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And so you really, playing on a team is a heck of a lot more fun than doing it by yourself. And so that was a big aha to me. But I loved J.Crew in that moment in time, and it was pretty lucky that thing hit the way it did. But people forget it was $88.
That was great.
I mean,
I'm desperate. I was actually trying to find one the other day, to be totally honest.
I've got one here that a customer brought us.
Yeah.
Which is kinda cool, so.
And then I can speak to You Need This, I promise. I don't know when, I can't even remember what the date was when I started it, but as I said, I really love to write. And I used to be, before the company got so big, I would be in my store every day. And so I would be able to say, you might not notice this one white shirt or something that's doesn't look like the most amazing thing to buy, but let me tell you why you need it, because I did have all this really great experience of being a fashion editor and working with women who taught me all that stuff. I mean, so it was a way to tell people why I thought they needed something, and then attach something sentimental to it, because we all buy clothes and then they're just clothes. But if we buy something and it has a memory attached to it or some special thing, it's just more meaningful. So I just started writing, and people really like it a lot, and I really enjoy doing it. So
if I could just add one thing to that is Anne's writing is great because it is so accessible, but it is not in any way vanilla. I mean, it really is emotional. It's beautiful. It touches a lot of people. There is one story she talks about when she worked at Vogue, which is kind of the personification of beauty. Do you mind just sharing a little bit about that? Well, like who you worked with? You worked with.
Oh, he loves it when I talk about it. I think that there were all these. I got to work with all the most beautiful models in the world. I was on Cindy Crawford's first photo shoot, Ellen McPherson, like every great beauty of that time period. I was, pushing their foot into a shoe and dressing them, and but a lot of them were very insecure. They were just phenomenally beautiful, but very insecure. And then the older editors that I worked with, who were in their 50s, 60s, some 70s, were attractive women, but they weren't great beauties. And I would have, even though I was young and looked pretty great, actually, I didn't ever mind getting old because I was like, those women are so cool. I mean, I would rather be them than Ellen McPherson, who at the time, so I really had a front row seat to feeling like, okay, I get it now. Like you can want to be as beautiful as your friend who is actually a supermodel, but you are never gonna, the only way you're gonna feel that great is learning to have confidence, and it's not about how you physically look, it's what you do and all that stuff. So
no, and that hashtag, you need this, I promise, like I feel like it comes from like a place of confidence. So
yeah,
whenever I want my wife
told me, so I'll tell you. Yeah.
So whenever I want my wife to do something, I'm like, you need to do this, I promise.
I promise.
Does anybody have any questions? I can keep going.
Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah, Blair, go ahead.
So I just want to start with an observation. It's really interesting to listen to the two of you talk. And I'm really struck by this sense that, and correct me if I'm wrong, like you're running on intuition. So I think there's the science way of doing business, and there's the art way of doing business, and the art is a lot of intuition. And when I hear you talk, I think to you, your vision of the retail enterprise it's all about Sid. What does Sid like? How do I share Sid with the world? I'm gathering there wasn't a whole lot of market research that went into the business.
No, there isn't. And sometimes when we talk about it, I get really self-conscious because there was so little planning. I cannot tell you. I mean, we had 5 kids. We moved here and knew that we just had to build out because, Sid went to Europe to go get all the stuff made. And I, moved us in, and then we just started building out the store, and we just did it. And so we didn't, have the way that we even built out the store was not merchandise friendly in a way. We just cobbled it together. I mean, we had stuff from our own home, our own furniture that we put in there. I mean, Sid's been in, design and retail for a long time, so I don't want to cut him short, but I certainly didn't know what I was doing in terms of, when I opened my first store, there was no merchandise plan with color stories or anything. It was just, this looks great, and I know I can put it together and it'll look great and someone will buy it. So we've grown up a lot and we have a lot more thought behind things, but I would say that it was a lot of intuition and just, again, we did have all this experience of all these years. I mean, we were 45 when we opened, so we knew what looked great, and Sid absolutely had a design point of view. Like everything he put in that shop was so well thought out. But I would say in terms of just the brand, it was just the idea of saying, we're going to put awesome stuff in a store. It's going to have the vision and the personality of Sid Mashburn, because it was just Sid then. And it's going to be an environment that is really cool, that is a representation of him, because he always did. It wasn't a brand. He always wanted to have a retail shop. He always wanted to make the place, some of it's vanity. He just wanted it to look like how he wanted it to look. He didn't want his stuff. Like now we wholesale, but we were never going to wholesale because he did not want to see his shirt hanging on somebody else's hanger on a sale rack at the back of the store. Okay, we've gotten over that, and we really love our wholesale accounts.
Not completely,
but it was really not much more than that. And then it just built on that. And whether it was right or wrong, but I think we had an idea of just. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to tell the story of Sid. I'm saying that now, but I wasn't thinking it then. It was just more like, oh gosh, they don't know how cute he is. Like when I went to his office, I loved his bulletin board, so I'm just going to do that here. It is, I can talk about it now, but I can tell you it was very just let's do this. So
there was an informed intuition also, because
yes.
Ann and I we were outsiders in New York. But we became insiders through work and through hard work, because we like to work. We like what we do. I would say, I would say our every piece of furniture we buy, we didn't buy it without asking the other one, what do you think? We really on the same page about what we thought was creatively the right thing. And I would say my biggest learning point, oddly, was at Land's End about what really needs to be constituted as a foundation for a business. And there I learned two different concepts. One was the idea, and I'm sure many of you know about this, the good, the better, and the best. And then the flip side of that is core plus, and fashion. So I knew that we, when we started the store, we had Levi's 501s for $65. Actually, back then it was $55 a pair. Then we'd have my shirts that started out at $125 to $145 a shirt. And then we had Edward Green shoes from England and Globetrotter luggage from England that was, super luxury. And the point is how do you open the aperture of opportunity or of customer base from here to out here? Because I like all that stuff. And we never put anything in there we didn't personally believe was right. Because I wore Levi's 501s and I aspired to a piece of Globetrotter luggage. So there, that was the good, the better, and the best. But then the core plus, and the fashion is if you look at our clothes today, a polo shirt or an Oxford shirt would be core. Core plus would be a striped or tie-dyed version of that, and then the fashion would be maybe a printed version of that. So, and as you go up the pyramid, the size of that area gets smaller and smaller. So the best was this much, but it had enough sprinkle on it that it kind of informed the stuff below. So we were able to build a wider audience, and actually to me a more interesting audience, because I have friends all along that spectrum. I didn't have a bunch of guys that couldn't afford anything that were my friends, or guys that were super rich that were my friends. It's just like you just wanted to be a store for everybody. And we even kind of said early on, this is like a fraternity where everybody gets a bid. Okay, this store is for every guy, and we still feel that today. Now the clothes are not inexpensive, but they are super value laden. So this suit I'm wearing today, I've had this suit for 7 years, and I look to have it probably for at least another 5 years. So we like to think in long-term value creation and value proposition to our customers. So intuition really is the heart of it, because that's where you can dream and have fun. But there was some underpinnings to it that were a bit more foundational, not just like, oh, I love this, or oh, I love that. But we didn't cut corners on our feelings about what we wanted to present.
We also were okay with losing all the money we put into it. We put a ton of money into it, but we both felt like, okay, I knew he could go get a job again, and it was, just money. And of course I didn't want to lose it. I did have, our girls' college money was in the bank. And so I feel like that freedom of saying, I'm going to make it just the way I want to make it. I'm not going to have to, if it doesn't work, then I didn't do it right, and it wasn't meant to work, and I'll go do something else. But I really think as an entrepreneur, you cannot do anything unless you're saying, this might not work. We could lose our money.
Yeah, and that is a huger statement than you can imagine, because who has a partner like that?
Well, as I said, there was one account.
Well,
I had an exit plan.
Yeah,
There's a little exit plan. Okay.
Hey, Brendan, do you want to go ahead?
I love everything that you're saying, just talking about how you've cultivated sort of the brand identity, but also just even the individual designs and everything. When you think about style, which of course is very subjective, but we know that trends exist and everything, how do you balance the idea of like statement pieces and something that will get a lot of attention, and then some of those things that are strong, steady, every day, and even matching those things together that some of the folks on this call know? I have a pair of shoes I had custom made in London that have my company logo, which is my silhouette on it. Those are my statement shoes, and I love shoes. So when I want to get attention, because I don't walk into any room and people don't talk about the shoes.
And do you have them on today?
A lot of confidence.
Oh, I can go get them. Because now I have the casual ones and the dress ones. So,
So you got every occasion covered. this is, if you can see, it's a crude. It's just what I just talked about: core plus, and fashion. We don't put a whole lot of fashion in the mix, and in an odd way, we may be more of a core plus first company and a core second company, and then fashion the third. So that's how we balance out. You know, what the statement pieces are clearly the fashion pieces. Okay. But even Ann's and my sensibility, there's nothing weird, you know, or too weird. I mean,
you've done like day-glow pants. I mean, there's like, we you know, we dyed tree-torn sneakers in neon yellow when we first opened. We always have one punchy piece for sure.
But what's interesting, it does have a traditional base to it. Like for next spring, we've got a pair of zebra printed pants. Okay, that you don't see those everywhere, but it's the pattern is crazy, but the silhouette is almost right down the middle, maybe a little bit to the left of center. But it's a plain front pair of pants that if it was in khaki, all of you on the screen would wear. But if it's in zebra, I'm not sure any of you would.
And you know, we're shoppers. Like I think I have kind of boring taste in a way. It's not for, you know, I'm not like, I put a lot of things in my store that are punchier than I normally would wear every day, but I'm still a shopper. I'll go in my store and maybe I'll see something that I'm like, wow, I have to have that. You know, I didn't think I did, but I'm just as attracted to something shiny and bright as the next person. So I think when we remember that we are, even though we're shoppers too. So it's like whatever strikes our fancy.
Actually, honestly, that's how I got in this business. Mm-hmm. I love to shop. I'm an excellent shopper.
Way more than me.
So if you ever want to go shopping, I'm free.
How do you guys incorporate that question into your own style and how you put yourself together?
Was that the question?
Jonathan
is asking us how we incorporate it into what we wear every day. Okay. So, like what I'm wearing today, like I'm wearing a simple t-shirt that's like so classic and striped, but then I put on these these earrings, which are, you know, they look like from an old estate. They're like, you know, a little strong for something that looks sporty. So I guess I kind of do a little of that.
And Brendan, I'll go back. Another way to answer what you ask about is every outfit really can only take one lead singer.
Yes.
Okay. Today, this tie is my lead singer because if I take that away, it's just a navy suit with a soft pink shirt, which soft pink shirt is not a total background singer, but anyway, I put this on. This is the pop. All right. So again, I don't want a turnout that's all lead singers.
And that's just us though. We would never judge somebody else. Like there's people that are really flamboyant and I think that's great too. So I think one thing we try to remember that again, it's just our point of view. It's not for everybody, but if you like it, then you might like a few things in our shop. It comes from an attitude of kind of humbleness in a way.
We hope.
Yeah.
I wonder if you guys could talk about the influence of Italy. Specifically, I love that you sell Diodora shoes, but can you just talk about Italy? It does seem Italy, there's like a core of it, like the espresso, the whole lifestyle, the Diodora shoes. Can you in the tailor, like the craftsmanship in Italy, and can you talk about how that influences your thinking?
It's the best tailoring in the world. It's just a little bit, you know, Japan is, you know, makes the best pizza in the world. And I think they make the best scotch in the world and they make the best bourbon in the world. You know, when they put their mind to it and concentrate on it, they can make the best of anything. But from an industry and a heritage, you can't beat tailoring from Italy. And so we said from the very beginning, we were going to have, you know, our tailored clothing made in Italy. Now, we actually tend to prefer English fabrics with Italian tailoring. And then we like American style because, you know, American style is not nearly as sort of flashy as Italian style can be because, you know, you pop an Italian guy over here and he looks a little bit different than we do. But funny enough, you know, well-dressed Italians usually have kind of a sort of preppy foundation to what they wear also. They do like color, unless it's super fashiony, like a Gucci or Dolce & Gabbana or someone like that. But anyway, we started out making everything in Italy. We do buy a lot of fabric from there. We make shoes there. We make pants there. We make shirts there. We make sweaters there. We make outerwear there. We make jackets there. And we tend to make almost everything in Europe. Okay, so
that's also because you learned. I mean, you in your design training, you were exposed to that.
Yeah,
as a young
that's
designer.
right.
And
That's
and
right.
so I think it's part of his story and his education. I mean, that's just where he learned to his business.
But if you go back even to the early days of natural shouldered Ivy League style back in the 50s and 60s, that all came from tailored clothing makers that were dotting from Maryland all the way up and over to Chicago, and most of the largest population in those tailored clothing companies were Italians.
Right.
Okay, and so they made the patterns. They just have a real feel for how to make things, and there's a care and an artistry to what they make. We used to do business with a company called Keaton, which is crazy priced tailored clothing, beautiful. You walk into their factory, and you go into it's not a small factory, it's a decent sized factory, but there will be 8 pods of men, all doing the same. In each pod, all those guys are doing probably 3 operations, and they're passing it around to each other. And then there's a presser for each of those pods. So the presser is running in and out, pressing different parts while these guys are hand stitching the whole thing. And then when it finishes that pod, it gets pressed again, it goes to the next pod. And so, and it was mostly all men. I mean, there's maybe 20% women there. There's more today than there used to be. The funny thing about it is all the guys in the pod, they trash talk each other while they're sewing. It's the craziest thing. They're like, he can't sew. He's the worst. But anyway, so Italy is big. The other piece is the Diodora. I was a huge Bjorn Borg fan.
Yeah.
And he wore 2 shoes. He wore Tree Torn and he wore the Diodoras.
There we go.
And the Diodoras, we'd like to do more business with them. But they
well, Sid, don't do too much because they're like my secret shoes, man. I don't want too many Americans wearing Diodoras.
Okay, we'll try to limit.
We have a hard
it for
time
you,
getting
Mark.
it.
Which one do you wear? The low?
I wear like all Diodoras. I discovered them like when I was 14. My family took a trip there, and I played soccer in Michigan. I brought back these Diodora shoes. I think I scored 50 goals that year, and
that week.
They're great shoes.
You're not related to Amanda Ross, are you?
I'm not. I don't think so.
She's from Michigan.
Well, I think we'll wrap up with one last question.
Okay.
I'm curious because, when I go into the stores, they're very friendly. Like you feel you can hang out there. I haven't been to the Atlanta store, but apparently there's a coffee shop there, and I just noticed there's like rugs. There's floor rugs. There's vinyl playing. The staff is like they're not on you. It's very warm and welcoming, and there's always little surprises. But obviously, e-commerce, like how are you wrestling with direct consumer versus the retail, the shop? Because it does, you're also at your heart, I do feel like you guys are retailers. You like to have people in the store. How are you wrestling with that internally?
I think Ann answered it very, very, very well when we first started the e-commerce. Because, I came from Land's End, and Land's End was, I think, the largest seller of apparel online, of a single brand apparel online in the world at that time.
Wow.
They started the internet business in 1994. So they might be out in a cornfield, but don't underestimate people like Dana. Those Wisconsin people, man, they go deep quick and they work hard. But anyway, somebody asked us early on, they said, how are you going to replicate the feeling you have in the store online? And Ann said,
What did I say?
she said, we can't.
It's not the same. It's just like, they're so different. But I was like, well, we're just going to make it like, if the retail stuff is great, we're going to make the website stuff really great. And for me, a website is nothing more than a series of pictures. And I came from the magazine world, and it's like what you try to do is inspire people. So with pictures, so I thought, well, the web is a great way to sell. It's just different. And Sid, I would say, really loves person-to-person selling. I mean, everything goes back to that for him. He's always talking about the original, the guys in the store. I have to remind him all the time. I'm like, Sid, there's women too. Yeah, like, this is a brand, but he can't get it. Like, that's just who he is. He like opened his shop. He's on the floor himself every day, and no matter how, I mean, he just loves that. But I love all of it. I love my store too, but I love the opportunity to put up beautiful pictures and inspire people who can't come to the shops to buy it. Because that, to me, I'm just opening the door to everybody. It's just like the store window and you can buy. So I think we do a nice job of it. I think we have, our oldest daughter is a creative person and has done a great job of writing and translating our brand through words and pictures.
Anne also said early on, I love doing business when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
So that was a nice twist.
That's a good entrepreneurial mantra for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we got one last question from Wisconsin, the Global Great Lakes. Dana, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you guys. Keep pushing on that on the digital side, because you can do all of those things. I mean, all of that soul that you have in those in the store, just keep pushing, because it can come through. It's just different, and I know you can do it because you've done an amazing job so far. But just there's a way to get it done, and it's I don't know. It's I know all of that can come through, and in just the way that you both want it. So just keep trying. So congrats on all your success, because it's been fun to see the beginning, and I can't wait to see where you guys go.
Thank you.
Dan. It's really kind.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Thank you. You too.
We got one more question from the Great Lakes, Jack Hempel from Ohio.
Hey, this is quick for both of you. When you go back into the store, what's your go-to vinyl that you're going to put on the turntable?
Todd Rundgren, something
anything. Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Self-produced, Bearsville Studios. We're oddly, I love that, but funny enough, you go in the store anytime. It's definitely the record that's been played, or the double album. Both of those albums are the most played of anything we've ever played in the store over the course of time.
Okay.
How about you? What would you put on?
Wow, that'd be a tough one. I just Little Feet, Waiting for Columbus.
Oh, I like that a lot.
How's that? It's in my other room, sitting on right next to the turntable.
I don't have one because I like leave all the musical decisions to Sid. So I married into that, and it feels great to walk in and be surprised.
Jack, I might go to Lowell George as the second one.
There you go. All good.
I like it when the young people in the store will play something that you know they didn't know about. Like, what's it called? Daryl Hall and John Oates.
Abandoned Luncheonette.
Yeah, I'm like, you were not even like an idea when that was going on, but I'm glad you like it.
Well, actually, what's funny is I think the music, though, seriously, is probably the biggest galvanizer that we have. It's an underused piece of tactile communication in stores anywhere. And it's the worst when you go into a store and it's just straight up music and nobody picked it, or it's been algorithmically put together. Which I don't mean to criticize that, because it's actually
efficient.
It's efficient. There's some good combinations, but anyway, the music really helps. We're always trying to figure out what are icebreakers.
Right.
So,
and the vinyl helps too.
Yeah.
Well, Ann and Sid, thank you so much for joining us.
A joy.
Sid used to have a radio show, so I think it's on
No,
SoundCloud,
you can
right?
still get it. It's on the website.
Okay. I'll share that link.
Jonathan helped produce it. And was
great.
Listen,
I'll share that, and then
the DJ is terrible, but the music's pretty good.
Can I share your emails with the group? Are you guys cool with that? If you
Yeah.
want to follow up?
Sure.
We're in.
All right, perfect. And
Yeah.
hopefully we'll see you in DC soon.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll grab a meal at Shea Billy's soon.
Our favorite.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay. Nice
Bye.
to
Thank
see
you,
you.
everybody.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ciao. Thanks.